Welcome to our web exclusive. I'm Mike Montecalvo, along with Eyewitness News analyst Lieutenant General Reginald Centracchio. General, we're reminded this week, we talk about the unrest in the Middle East all the time, but I think this one really shines because a major general was killed in combat, the first one since Vietnam.
You know, clearly, the 5,000 casualties, those killed in action between Iraq and Afghanistan is highlighted with this. Certainly, being a general officer gives a lot of media attention to it. But he's equally important, obviously, as all of our other soldiers who made the ultimate sacrifice. But having said that, when you talk about security and whether, in fact, we're in a safe area or not, you're only as safe as the individual next to you wants you to be. You have Afghans who are clearly in the Afghan army. Allegedly, this individual killed the Major General for whatever reason. It could have just been something that was triggered him to do this, but the safety and security of all military personnel is really dependent more and more on the Afghan forces.
All right, we'll get to the security in a second. Let's talk about this soldier. He was an Afghan soldier. Apparently he got vetted as much as you can, but they can change. The Taliban is not taking any responsibility for this, but they're applauding this.
Right, exactly. They applauded it, but they didn't take credit for it. But once again, you know, you have an individual who may change his mind midstream. He met all of the criteria to be considered for perhaps some rank in the Afghan army, and all of a sudden he changes. You're not sure whether that was intended, whether it was in fact planned that way, or maybe something triggered him to take this action.
Now,
clearly a challenge.
When you were in active duty, you went to Afghanistan, you were protected. How is that done with, you know, any general or officer?
When I visited troops twice, both in Afghanistan and Iraq, I had about 6 armed personnel with me, all U.S. military at all times. Of course, that was when we were transiting from the plane to the helicopter and out to the different places throughout Iraq as well as Afghanistan. This particular general was within a confined area, the military academy itself. So there is a difference. I'm sure he had security around him, but not as much as you would if you were outside the wire, so to speak.
Well, it had to be a surprise. He was shot 100 yards away.
Yeah, but once again, you know, you have the kind of systems, either with a rifle that had the ability to telescope him in, or he was a real good shot. And 100 yards with today's weapon systems is really nothing.
You know, he was evaluating the Afghan training mission. What does this say now about the mission?
Well, the mission is still viable. We can't not subscribe to that. On the other hand, we need to be really conscious that whether, in fact, the Afghan security forces can carry out that mission. That's the concern. And I fear that once we say, okay, this is yours, and we're here only in an advisory capability, can we depend on them for our security? That's the real challenge.
All right, for over a year now, you've been standing there talking about turning over, you know, security forces to the Afghan army. You have had questions. The questions raising even higher now?
Exactly, just exactly what I just said. You know, you can give them the mission, you can train them, you can hope that they have enough integrity and certainly experience and want to have their own security. But when it comes to actually exercising that and executing the mission that they're supposed to be having, then you have concerns about it when you have this kind of a situation happening from within their own ranks.
We have no agreement right now. About 9,000 soldiers will stay there once the drawdown begins at the end of 2014. How safe are they going to be
Mike,
at this point?
that's a real concern to me. We have no status of forces agreement, which means that we have no status in reference to if one of our soldiers were to commit some kind of a felony or something else, we would have a tremendous problem.